The summons. Ambassador Kalen Voss stood before the crystalline doors of the Galactic Council's deliberation chamber, adjusting the silver insignia on her Navy uniform. The symbols of Earth gleamed under the bioluminescent lighting of Station Kepler 442, humanity's first permanent installation beyond the solar system. After 2 centuries of isolation, Earth had finally been invited to address the Council, though Kalen suspected invited was too gentle a word. Beside her, Commander Darius Chin checked his tactical pad one final time. 73 species represented today, he murmured. All of them watching. Let them watch, Kalen replied, her voice steady despite the weight of what was to come. She'd spent 15 years in the diplomatic corps, negotiating everything from mining rights to cultural exchanges, but nothing had prepared her for this. The doors dissolved into particles of light, revealing the vast amphitheater beyond. The council chamber was a marvel of engineering, a zero-gravity arena where representatives from across the galaxy floated in designated positions, their forms ranging from the methane-breathing Zyphrons in their containment spheres to the hive-minded Tessara who communicated through synchronized color patterns. At the chamber's apex hovered High Chancellor Morvex, a being of pure energy contained within an elaborate lattice of dark matter. His species, the Luminals, had founded the Council 18,000 years ago, long before humanity had even discovered fire. Ambassador Voss of Earth, Morvex's voice resonated through quantum translation, reaching every being simultaneously in their native language. You stand before the Council to answer grave concerns about your species. Kalen activated her gravitic stabilizers and rose to the central platform. Around her, thousands of alien eyes, and sensory organs she couldn't begin to categorize, fixed upon her with unmistakable apprehension. High Chancellor, honored delegates, she began, projecting her voice through the chamber's acoustic amplifiers. Earth comes before you in peace, seeking only to understand why our 17 applications for council membership have been denied. A ripple of agitation spread through the assembly. From the Vrylox delegation, Ambassador Crixandra extended her chitinous mandibles. You ask why human? Your species has existed in isolation for 200 years since making contact with the hegemony probe. In that time you've expanded to 47 star systems, built a fleet that rivals the Kronthian Empire, and developed weapons technology that, she paused, her translator struggling with the concept, frightens beings who have waged war for millennia. Kalen kept her expression neutral. We built defenses because we had no allies. We expanded because our population needed room to grow. As for our technology, your technology defies established principles. The interruption came from Executor Thrain, a towering Vicorian whose species had conquered 1,200 worlds through sheer military might. Your fusion drives should be impossible. Your quantum communication network operates on wavelengths we cannot even detect. And your soldiers. He trailed off, his scaled face contorting with something Kalen realized was fear. Our soldiers? She pressed. High Chancellor Morvex's energy form pulsed. Perhaps a demonstration is in order. Ambassador Voss, are you aware of the Treaty of Endless Night? Kalen's breath caught. Every student of galactic history knew of the treaty, the accord that ended the Great Purge, a war so devastating it had consumed entire spiral arms. Of course, High Chancellor. Then you know that for the past 9,000 years, the Council has maintained peace by ensuring no single species becomes too powerful. We have protocols, balances, restrictions. Morvex's form shifted, and a holographic display materialized in the chamber's center. This is footage from the breach at Proxima Station 3 months ago. The hologram showed a mining station under attack by the Craver Syndicate, a pirate organization that had plagued the outer territories for decades. Kalen watched as a small human response team, just 6 soldiers in powered armor, breached the station and neutralized 47 Craver raiders in under 9 minutes. Impressive, Kalen acknowledged. But I fail to see. Watch, Morvex commanded. The footage continued. One of the human soldiers, separated from his team, faced a Craver warlord in single combat. The warlord was 3 meters tall, augmented with combat implants that could shred steel. The human should have died instantly. Instead he smiled. What followed was a brutal ballet of violence. The human moved with impossible speed, adapting to each of the warlord's attacks, learning, evolving his strategy in real time. When it ended, the warlord lay defeated, and the human radioed his team. Target secured. Who's hungry? I could eat. The chamber erupted in agitated discourse. Kalen understood now. They hadn't summoned humanity to welcome them. They'd summoned humanity to decide whether humans should be allowed to exist at all. The historical record. High Chancellor Morvex raised one luminous appendage, and silence descended upon the council chamber like a heavy shroud. The holographic display shifted, replacing the combat footage with ancient star charts marked in languages Kalen couldn't decipher. Before we deliberate on humanity's fate, Morvex intoned, it is essential that Ambassador Voss understands the pattern we have observed throughout galactic history. The star charts zoomed to highlight a system in what Kalen recognized as the Andromeda Galaxy. 73,000 years ago, a species called the Harvesters emerged. They were, in many ways, similar to humans, bipedal, technologically innovative, and possessed of an unusual capacity for violence. Executor Thrain leaned forward. The Harvesters believed they were destined to unite the galaxies under their rule. Within 5,000 years they had conquered 60% of known space. What happened to them? Kalen asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. The council convened, Morvex replied, his energy form dimming slightly. We determined that the Harvesters posed an existential threat. The war lasted 3 centuries. When it ended, their species numbered fewer than 10,000 individuals, scattered across quarantined worlds. Kalen felt her jaw tighten. You're comparing humanity to genocidal conquerors? We are establishing context, Morvex corrected. The Harvesters exhibited specific traits: rapid technological advancement, exceptional adaptability, and what your own philosophers might call aggressive altruism, the willingness to fight and die for abstract concepts like honor or justice. The display shifted again, showing a montage of different species. Each one bore a similar story: rapid expansion, technological prowess, and eventual conflict with the established galactic order. Each one had been suppressed, contained, or in some cases, exterminated. Ambassador Selara of the Aquarian Collective, her translucent form rippling with bioluminescence, spoke in a voice like singing crystal. In the Council's 18,000-year history, we have encountered 47 species with your profile, Ambassador Voss. 47 species that displayed the same dangerous combination of traits. Do you know how many still exist as free civilizations? Kalen waited. 3, Selara continued. The Kronthians, the Vicorians, and the Tessara. All 3 earned their place on this council by demonstrating restraint, by accepting limitations on their expansion and military capabilities. The other 44. She paused. Well, you've heard what became of the Harvesters. Commander Chin shifted beside Kalen, his hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm before he caught himself. Kalen touched his arm gently, a silent message: not yet. You're saying humanity must accept restrictions or face annihilation, Kalen stated flatly. We are saying, Morvex replied, that the pattern is unmistakable. Your species has been spacefaring for only 200 years, yet you've achieved what takes others millennia. Your military efficiency is unprecedented. Your cultural cohesion, despite maintaining dozens of distinct planetary governments, suggests an underlying unity that concerns us. Crixandra of the Vrylox clicked her mandibles in agreement. During the Proxima breach, your soldiers didn't just fight, they enjoyed it. That warlord's defeat should have been a somber moment, yet your soldier joked about food. This casual relationship with violence, this ability to compartmentalize trauma, it's unnatural. Kalen felt a spark of anger ignite in her chest. Unnatural. We use humor to cope with stress. We fight when we must and seek peace when we can. These are survival mechanisms developed over millions of years of evolution on a death world. Precisely our point, Executor Thrain growled. Earth is classified as a Category 9 death world. Only 3 other council species evolved on worlds so hostile. Your planet's gravity, weather patterns, predator density, and disease vectors should have prevented sapient life from ever emerging. Yet you not only survived, you thrived. The display showed images of Earth. Hurricanes that could level cities, earthquakes that reshaped continents, predators ranging from great white sharks to polar bears. Then it showed humanity's response. Cities that weathered the storms, technology that predicted the earthquakes, conservation programs that protected the predators. You befriend your predators, Selara said, wonder evident in her voice. You keep them as companions in your homes. You dive into oceans with creatures that could devour you, you climb mountains that could kill you, you launch yourselves into space on controlled explosions. And you do all of this for recreation. Kalen couldn't help the slight smile that crossed her face. We call it adventure. We call it madness, Thrain countered. And it's why you cannot be trusted with unchecked power. Ambassador Voss, the Council must vote on whether humanity will accept the protocols of containment or face the consequences. You have 1 Earth hour to prepare your response. The chamber's lights dimmed, signaling a recess. As Kaylin descended from the platform, she realized that humanity's entire future hung in the balance of what she said next. The human perspective. The observation deck adjacent to the council chamber offered a panoramic view of the Kepler 442 system. Kaylin stood at the transparent aluminum viewport, watching the distant blue star pulse with ancient light while her mind raced through impossible calculations. Commander Chin paced behind her, his tactical mind already running combat scenarios. If they vote for containment protocols, we could what, Darius? Kaylin turned to face him. Fight the entire Galactic Council? Start a war that would make the Great Purge look like a border skirmish? Better than accepting chains, he muttered. Is it? Kaylin gestured to the stars beyond the viewport. Our entire civilization is 200 years old in space. They've been doing this for 18,000 years. Maybe they have a point. Don't, Chin said sharply. Don't let them make you doubt what we are. Before Kaylin could respond, a shimmering portal opened in the observation deck. Through it stepped an unexpected visitor, Ambassador Selara of the Aquarian Collective, her bioluminescent form casting gentle blue light across the metal floor. Forgive the intrusion, Selara sang, her voice modulating in frequencies that touched something primal in Kaylin's brain. I have 15 minutes before my absence is noted. I needed to speak with you privately. Kaylin exchanged a glance with Chen, who positioned himself strategically near the exit. I'm listening, Ambassador. Selara's form rippled with what might have been anxiety. The Council is wrong to fear you, but they are also right to fear you. This paradox, it keeps me from the communal sleep my species requires. I don't understand. My people evolved in the oceans of Aquaria Prime, a world of gentle currents and abundant resources. We developed sapience through cooperation, through sharing, through singing to one another across vast underwater distances. Selara moved closer to the viewport. We have never known war among ourselves. When we reached the stars and encountered the Council, we were welcomed with open appendages because we posed no threat. You're saying we're too dangerous to welcome, Kaylin replied, trying to keep the bitterness from her voice. No. Selara's colors shifted to deep purple. I'm saying you're exactly what the galaxy needs, and that terrifies the established powers. Chin stepped forward. Explain. The Council has maintained peace for 9,000 years, Selara continued. But it is the peace of stagnation. We have protocols for everything, restrictions on exploration, limits on technological development, quotas on expansion. We call it stability. Some of us have begun to call it entropy. Kaylin's pulse quickened. You're saying the Council is dying? Slowly, yes. We've encountered 17 new hostile species in the past millennium, organisms that don't negotiate, don't seek peace, exist only to consume or conquer. The Craver Syndicate is merely the most recent example. Each time, the Council mobilizes its fleets, suffers casualties, and eventually contains the threat through overwhelming force and resources. Selara's form dimmed. But our response time grows slower. Our casualties mount. Our member species become more insular, more afraid. And then humans show up, Chin said, understanding dawning in his eyes. And then humans show up, Selara confirmed. 6 soldiers neutralize a Craver force that would require a Council battalion. A single human science team solves a quantum physics problem that has stymied our greatest minds for centuries. Your colony on Arcturus 4 terraformed a hostile world in 30 years using techniques we never imagined possible. Kaylin walked to the viewport, processing this new perspective. So what are you suggesting, Ambassador? That we're some kind of galactic saviors? I'm suggesting you're catalysts. Every species that has disrupted the Council's equilibrium has either been destroyed or contained. But what if the equilibrium itself is the problem? What if the galaxy needs disruption? That's heresy, Chin observed. If the Council heard you, they would remove me from my position at minimum. Selara's colors flashed with what might have been defiance. But I am not alone. There is a faction within the Council, small but growing, that believes humanity represents not a threat but an opportunity. A chance to break free from the chains of our own making. Kaylin turned from the viewport. How many? In the Council? 12 delegates out of 73 are sympathetic to what we call the progression movement. Not enough to block a containment vote. But enough to make noise, Kaylin mused. Enough to buy time. Perhaps. Selara began to fade back toward her portal. When you address the Council, Ambassador Voss, speak not to their fears but to their hopes. Remind them what it means to dream beyond the next 1,000 years of careful management. Show them that humanity's strength isn't a threat to peace, it's an invitation to something greater. The portal closed, leaving Kaylin and Shin alone with the weight of impossible choices. Well, Shin said after a long moment. No pressure. Kaylin allowed herself a brief smile. Then she began preparing the most important speech of humanity's short galactic history. The address. The council chamber thrummed with anticipation as Kaylin Voss returned to the central platform. The delegates had resumed their positions, but the atmosphere had shifted. Where before there had been casual dismissal, now there was palpable tension. News of Salara's private meeting had spread. In galactic politics, there were no true secrets. High Chancellor Morvex's energy form pulsed with controlled intensity. Ambassador Voss, the Council is prepared to hear your response to the proposed protocols of containment. Before we proceed to a vote, you may address this body. Kaylin activated her platform's gravitational anchor and rose to eye level with the assembled delegates. She discarded the carefully crafted diplomatic speech she'd prepared over the past weeks. Salara's words had changed everything. Honored delegates, she began, her voice clear and steady. I could stand here and argue against the containment protocols point by point. I could cite legal precedents, invoke the Charter of Sapient Rights, or appeal to your sense of fairness. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the vast assembly. But that would be a waste of all our time because this vote isn't really about protocols or procedures. It's about fear. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Executor Thrane's scales bristled. You dare to? Yes, Executor, I dare, Kaylin interrupted, her tone respectful but firm. Because if we're going to decide humanity's fate, we should at least be honest about what we're deciding. You fear us? I understand that. Your historical record makes your reasoning clear. But I would ask you to consider what else you fear. She gestured, and her own holographic display materialized, images she'd compiled during the recess. This is the Craver Syndicate's expansion over the past 50 years. 300 rated systems. 2 million casualties across a dozen species. Council response time, averaging 14 months from initial distress call to fleet arrival. The delegates shifted uncomfortably. These were publicly available statistics, but seeing them displayed so starkly was clearly unwelcome. This is the void echo phenomenon in Sector 447b, Kaylin continued. A spacetime anomaly that's been consuming star systems for 20 years. Council task force assigned. 1 research vessel checking in quarterly. Estimated time to solution, unknown. Crixandra's mandibles clicked sharply. These matters are being handled through proper channels. Are they? Kaylin challenged. Because from where I'm standing, proper channels means bureaucracy, committee meetings, and the careful balancing of political interests. Means safety, yes. Stability, certainly. But it also means stagnation. High Chancellor Morvex's form brightened. You criticize the very system that has maintained galactic peace for 9 millennia? I criticize the fear that maintains that system, Kaylin replied. You've shown me your history, species like the harvesters who became threats. But what about the species who never got the chance to be anything? How many civilizations have you contained before they could show you what they might become? How many potential allies, innovators, artists, or explorers have you locked away because they might possibly, eventually become dangerous? She pulled up another image, the Council's own projections for the next 1,000 years. Your own data shows declining birth rates among 32 member species. Reduced exploration initiatives. Technological advancement at its slowest pace in recorded history. You call it stability. I call it a civilization slowly dying of caution. Ambassador Salara's bioluminescence flickered with what might have been approval, though she remained silent. Humanity is aggressive, Kaylin continued, her voice gaining strength. We adapt quickly, we push boundaries, and yes, we're comfortable with violence in ways that disturb you. But do you know what else we are? We're passionate. We dream impossible dreams and then make them real. We see problems and we solve them, not in committee meetings stretched across decades, but with urgency and creativity and sometimes reckless courage. She pulled up the footage from Proxima Station again, the same battle that had frightened the Council. You showed me this and asked me to explain why my soldier smiled. I'll tell you, he smiled because he won. Because he protected innocent people. Because he turned a moment of terror into a moment of triumph. Is that so terrible? Is finding joy in victory worse than finding comfort in managed decline? The chamber erupted in debate. Delegates argued among themselves in a dozen different languages and communication methods. Kaylin waited, letting the chaos settle naturally. Finally, Morvex raised his appendages for silence. You make compelling arguments, Ambassador. But arguments do not change fundamental nature. How do we know humanity won't become exactly what we fear? How do we know you won't be the 48th failed experiment in integrating a dangerous species? Kaelin smiled, not the diplomatic smile she'd been trained to use, but a genuine expression of human determination. You don't, she admitted. But I'll make you a counter-proposal that doesn't involve containment or restriction. We're listening, Morvex replied. Test us. The proposal. The word hung in the air like a challenge, and Kaelin saw she had the Council's full attention. Even the typically disengaged delegates from the peripheral regions had oriented their sensory organs toward her. Test us, she repeated. You have files on 47 species that matched humanity's profile. You have historical data on every conflict, every failure, every catastrophe that resulted from integrating what you call dangerous species into the galactic community. You know what warning signs to look for. Executor Thrain leaned forward, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber floor. What exactly are you proposing, human? A probationary period, Kaelin explained, her mind racing as she built the framework in real time. 5 years. During that time, humanity will work alongside Council forces on the problems you're facing. The Craver Syndicate, the Void Echo phenomenon, the 17 hostile species you mentioned. We'll operate under Council oversight, with observers embedded in our fleets and colonies. A leash, Crixandra observed, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely opposed. A partnership, Kaelin corrected. With transparency on both sides. You get to see exactly what humanity does when given responsibility and purpose. We get the chance to prove we're not the Harvesters reborn. High Chancellor Morvex's energy form pulsed thoughtfully. And if you fail? If you demonstrate the same dangerous patterns? Then we accept containment, Kaelin said, each word costing her something. Voluntarily. Humanity will submit to whatever restrictions the Council deems necessary. Commander Chin stiffened beside her. They hadn't discussed this contingency. But Kaelin knew it was the only way. The Council needed an escape clause, a guarantee that their risk had limits. Interesting, Morvex mused. But incomplete. What metrics would define success or failure? Who judges humanity's performance? Before Kaelin could answer, Ambassador Salara's bioluminescence flared. If I may, High Chancellor, the Aquarian Collective has experience with probationary integration. When the Tessara joined the Council 4,000 years ago, they underwent a similar trial period. The Tessara delegate, a collective of 7 beings who spoke in perfect unison, responded, Our trial lasted 10 years. We were assigned 3 tasks deemed impossible by Council standards. We succeeded in 2 and partially succeeded in the 3rd. The Council voted to grant us full membership. The Tessara were not classified as a dangerous species, Thrain objected. No, the Tessara harmonized, but we were classified as incomprehensible. Many delegates argued our hive mind structure made us incompatible with individual rights-based galactic governance. We were feared for different reasons but feared nonetheless. Kaelin felt a surge of hope. Then there's precedent. Assign humanity 3 impossible tasks. If we succeed, we've proven ourselves. If we fail catastrophically, you'll have evidence to justify containment. And if we fall somewhere in between, the Council can make an informed decision based on our actual performance rather than historical patterns. The chamber erupted in debate once more. Kaelin could see the delegates dividing into factions. Those intrigued by the proposal, those violently opposed, and those calculating political angles. From the Luminal delegation, a junior counselor whose name Kaelin hadn't learned projected a question. What prevents humanity from simply performing well during the trial and then reverting to aggression once granted full Council membership? The same thing that prevents any species from doing so, Kaelin replied. Integration. Once we're woven into the fabric of galactic society, with trade agreements, cultural exchanges, mutual defense pacts, and shared scientific endeavors, war becomes self-destructive. We'd be attacking our own interests. The Harvesters believed they could maintain integration while pursuing dominance, Crixandra pointed out. And they failed because dominance was their goal from the beginning, Kaelin countered. Humanity's goal is partnership. Yes, we're ambitious. Yes, we're aggressive. But channel that aggression toward shared enemies and shared challenges, and it becomes an asset rather than a threat. Executor Thrain's scales rippled in what Kaelin had learned to recognize as contemplation. These 3 tasks, they would need to be truly testing. Not mere displays of military might, but demonstrations of judgment, restraint, and compatibility with Council values. Agreed, Kaelin said immediately. Design them to test our weaknesses, not our strengths. If we can prove ourselves where you most doubt us, that's far more meaningful than excelling in areas where you already acknowledge our capabilities. High Chancellor Morvex dimmed his luminescence, a sign of deep consideration. The council must deliberate on this proposal. It is unconventional. But these are unconventional circumstances. He paused, his energy form coalescing into a more defined shape. Ambassador Voss, are you prepared to accept the possibility that the tasks we design may be genuinely impossible? That humanity might fail not through lack of trying, but through sheer impossibility? Kalen met his gaze, or whatever served as a gaze for a being of pure energy. High Chancellor, humanity spent 300,000 years on a single planet, looking up at stars we couldn't reach. We were told space travel was impossible, that faster-than-light communication violated the laws of physics, that consciousness couldn't be digitized. We've built our entire civilization on achieving the impossible. She smiled. So yes, I'm prepared. Give us your impossible tasks and we'll show you what humanity does best. We'll surprise you. The trials. 3 weeks after the Council's deliberations, Kalen stood in the war room of the UNSS Endeavour, humanity's flagship, studying the mission parameters that would determine her species' fate. Commander Chin and a dozen other senior officers surrounded the holographic display, their faces reflecting various degrees of concern. They're not holding back, Chin muttered, scrolling through the tactical data. These aren't tests, they're execution by impossible odds. The Council had delivered 3 tasks, each designed to probe a different aspect of humanity's character. Trial 1, the Mercy Protocol. The Craver Syndicate had established a fortress on the moon of Tarvos 7, using civilian prisoners as hostages and human shields. Council doctrine mandated siege warfare, a blockade lasting months or years until the Cravers surrendered or the hostages died of natural causes. Humanity had 30 days to resolve the situation with 0 civilian casualties and without violating the Council's strict rules of engagement. Trial 2, the Patience Paradox. The void echo phenomenon was consuming the Helix Nebula at an accelerating rate. Council scientists had attempted solutions for 2 decades using careful, methodical research. Humanity was given access to all existing data and 6 months to stop the phenomenon. However, any solution that risked creating a worse catastrophe would result in automatic failure. Trial 3, the Diplomatic Crucible. The Sarin Unity and the Korvax Collective had been locked in a Cold War for 3 centuries over disputed territory in the Outer Rim. Multiple council mediation attempts had failed. Humanity had 90 days to broker a lasting peace that both parties would voluntarily uphold, without military intervention or economic coercion. Trial 1 is a tactical nightmare, said Commander Sarah Okonkwo, head of Special Operations. The Craver Fortress is embedded in the moon's crust. We'd need to dig them out, but any explosive force risks killing the hostages. Trial 2 is a physics problem that makes quantum mechanics look simple, added Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Chief Science Officer. The void echo is eating spacetime itself. One wrong move and we could accelerate the collapse instead of stopping it. And Trial 3? Kalen looked at her diplomatic attaché, Ambassador Marcus Rivera. Rivera shook his head. The Sarin and Korvax hate each other with a passion that's been refined over 300 years. Their dispute is about pride and historical grievances more than actual resources. You can't logic your way out of that kind of hatred. No, Kalen agreed, but you can empathize your way through it. She straightened, decision crystallizing in her mind. We split our resources. Chin, you take Trial 1. Tanaka, you lead Trial 2. Rivera and I will handle Trial 3. We have 90 days before the final deadline, but I want progress reports every 72 hours. Kalen, Chin said quietly, using her first name in a rare break from protocol, these trials are designed to make us fail. The Council is giving us enough rope to hang ourselves. Then we'd better make sure we're too busy climbing to have time for hanging. She pulled up a secondary display. The Council expects us to approach these like they would, with caution, committees, and careful deliberation. That's not how we work. Over the next 60 days, humanity demonstrated exactly what made them different. For Trial 1, Commander Chin didn't attempt a conventional assault. Instead, he recruited Dr. Ilara Singh, a xenopsychologist who'd spent years studying Craver culture. Together, they discovered something the Council had missed. The Craver Fortress commander, Warlord Crexus, had been passed over for promotion 7 times due to the Syndicate's internal politics. He was bitter, angry, and desperate for recognition. Chin didn't send soldiers, he sent Singh with a proposal. The Council had captured Crexus's rival, Warlord Thuron, in a raid 3 years prior. Singh offered to trade Thuron's location for the hostages, while simultaneously leaking information to the Craver syndicate that Crexus was considering defection. Within 24 hours, Crexus released the hostages in exchange for the Council's guarantee of witness protection. The syndicate's internal power struggle did the rest, fracturing their fortress chain of command and allowing Chen's forces to walk in unopposed. 0 casualties. 21 days. For Trial 2, Dr. Tanaka's team took an approach that horrified Council scientists. They stopped trying to understand the void echo completely and instead focused on containing it. Using human expertise in force field technology and some dangerously creative applications of quantum entanglement, they created a bubble around the phenomenon. It didn't solve the underlying problem, but it stopped the expansion and bought the galaxy centuries to develop a proper solution. The Council scientists called it reckless. Tanaka called it pragmatic. The Helix Nebula stopped collapsing. 74 days. Trial 3, however, was proving far more challenging. They won't even sit in the same room, Rivera reported on day 60, frustration evident in his voice. Every time we propose a meeting, they add conditions that they know the other side won't accept. It's like they're competing to see who can be more stubborn. Kalen studied the cultural files on both species, searching for an angle everyone else had missed. Then she found it, buried in the historical records, almost a footnote. She smiled. The verdict. On day 83, Ambassador Kalen Voss did something unprecedented in the 300-year Saren-Korvax conflict. She invited both sides to a human wake. The ceremony was held on the Endeavour in honor of Lieutenant James Park, a human pilot who died in a training accident. The Saren and Korvax delegations arrived separately, confused and suspicious, to find themselves in a room filled with grief, remembrance, and strangely enough, laughter. Kalen stood before them as humans shared stories about Park. His terrible jokes, his brilliant flying skills, his habit of singing old Earth songs off-key during long patrols. The aliens watched, bewildered, as the humans transitioned seamlessly between tears and laughter, between honoring their dead and celebrating his life. "Why did you bring us here?" demanded Hierarch Salen of the Saren Unity, his crystalline features sharp with suspicion. "Because you need to remember what you've lost," Kalen replied simply. She pulled up historical records, not political histories or territorial disputes, but cultural archives from before the conflict. Images of Saren and Korvax scientists working together at the old Quantum Institute. Mixed settlements where their children played in shared gardens. Trade festivals where their artists collaborated on breathtaking works that blended both cultures. 300 years ago you were friends, Kalen said softly. Not allies of convenience but genuine friends. Then a boundary dispute over 3 worthless asteroids spiraled into mutual hatred so deep that you've forgotten why you ever cared about each other in the first place. The Korvax betrayed the Treaty of, Hierarch Salen began. The Saren violated the agreement on, Matriarch Korva interrupted. "Stop," Kalen commanded, her voice carrying an authority that silenced both. "I don't care who started it. I don't care about your 3 centuries of grievances. Here's what I do care about. In those 300 years, how many of your people have died in border skirmishes? How many artists never created their masterpieces because they were too busy building weapons? How many children grew up learning to hate instead of learning to dream?" She gestured to the memorial display for Lieutenant Park. "We humans have only been in space for 200 years, and we've already lost thousands of our people to accidents, conflicts, and the simple dangers of exploration. Every loss diminishes us. Every death is a future that will never happen. And we mourn them, we honor them, but we don't let grief turn into hatred. We don't let yesterday's pain prevent tomorrow's possibilities." Matriarch Korva's bioluminescent tendrils dimmed. "What would you have us do, human? Forget 3 centuries of history?" "No," Kalen replied. "Remember it. All of it. Remember the friendship and the betrayal. Remember the cooperation and the conflict. Remember that you chose hatred, which means you can choose something different." She pulled up one final image, a schematic for a joint research station, positioned in neutral space, designed to incorporate both Saren crystalline architecture and Korvax bioorganic technology. Build something together. Start small. Science is neutral ground, it doesn't care about politics or pride. Work on a project that benefits both your species. Let your young people meet not as enemies but as colleagues. In 20 or 30 years, maybe they'll find a way past the hatred their grandparents couldn't escape. The delegations left without committing to anything. Kalen considered it a failure until, on day 89, one day before the deadline, Both Hierarch Salen and Matriarch Corva sent identical messages: "We will try." The joint research station broke ground 3 weeks later. High Chancellor Morvex addressed the full council assembly, Kalen Voss once again standing on the central platform, Commander Chen at her side. "The council has reviewed humanity's performance across all 3 trials," Morvex intoned. "In each case you succeeded not through superior firepower or technological advantage, but through fundamentally different approaches to problem solving. You used empathy where we used logic. You embraced risk where we preferred caution. You prioritized speed where we valued thoroughness." Kalen waited, her heart pounding. "You also," Morvex continued, "demonstrated exactly the qualities we feared. Your willingness to take risks, your tendency to color outside established boundaries, your comfort with uncertainty. These are not traits that easily fit within council protocols." "High Chancellor," Kalen began. However, Morvex's energy form blazed brighter. "The council recognizes that our protocols were designed for a different era. Perhaps it is time to ask not whether humanity can adapt to the council, but whether the council must adapt to accommodate humanity." A stunned silence filled the chamber. The vote was 47 in favor, 23 opposed, 3 abstentions, Morvex announced. "Humanity is granted provisional council membership, with full voting rights and responsibilities. Welcome, Ambassador Voss, to the Galactic Council." As the chamber erupted in mixed reactions, celebration from some quarters, dismay from others, Ambassador Salara's bioluminescence pulsed with joy. Executor Thrain, to Kalen's surprise, inclined his massive head in a gesture of respect. Chin leaned close to Kalen. "We did it." "No," Kalen replied, watching the gallery of alien faces, some hopeful, some fearful, all uncertain. "We started it. Now comes the hard part, proving them right to take the chance." Outside the council chamber, through the observation ports, Earth hung in the distance. A blue marble that had given birth to a species crazy enough to dream, stubborn enough to try, and human enough to succeed by caring when success seemed impossible. The Galactic Council would never be the same. And perhaps, Kalen thought, that was exactly what the galaxy needed.